Each of us tends to have all three of those characters. It's which bucket we stand in for the predominant time that's most important. And our argument, wouldn't it be cool if we could all take further steps towards being generous of spirit? So I wanted to
Hey, Lauren, how are you?
I'm really good, Lynette. Another beautiful day in a spring day in Seattle. It was, for our Canadian audience, it was 27 degrees. And for our Fahrenheit audience, it was close to 80 yesterday. So yeah, it was remarkable. And I'm just loving kind of being fueled all by all that sunshine. And maybe that's a gateway to our topic today, which is about abundance, right? It's about the importance of abundance, and specifically, we want to refer to an anchor for that conversation in a book that we both happen to like a lot. It's been around for a while, by Adam Grant, called Give and Take, and I know that you've referred to it. I use it for my executive MBA class, and there's some important lessons in there, I think. And so I just want to, raise this issue with our audience around this notion of giving versus matching and taking, and how it could make a difference to ourselves personally, and also make a difference to our careers. So how might we act in a more generous and a more abundant way, and how might that help others, and therefore also make a big contribution to us personally as well? How about that? Should we dig into that?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So let's first let's talk about Adam Grant and his three concepts that you just described, the givers, the takers, and the matchers. Do you want to brief synopsis?
Yeah. Adam Grant, who is the youngest tenured professor ever at Wharton, the University of Pennsylvania, and is a very prolific writer and podcaster. I think he has the #1 podcast in all of the Northeast side of North America, and continues to write about this notion of giving, taking, and matching. In fact, just last weekend, there was an article in the New York Times Magazine that he wrote that referred back to it. And in the foundation of his research, what he found is that even as human beings, that we have a propensity to behave in all three of these ways. The taker is, by and large, sees relationship mostly as a transaction, and is always looking, frankly, to take more than they get. Give. They tend to see things as a transaction, win-lose, and they see relationships that way. And they have they by and large behave that way. Matchers have a tendency to be reciprocators. I'll do this if you do that. And they're always looking to make sure that the teeter-totter is balanced around how they participate in a relationship. Givers, on the other hand, are generous by spirit. They look to give more. They look to expand the pie. They're abundant. And his research found that by a whole bunch of definitions of success, the most successful people were predominantly givers. And that was almost counterintuitive for some people that have grown up in the business world or other worlds around, going, you better buyer beware, screw the other guy, dog eat dog, it's a war out there, all this. Now, Grant put boundaries around that and said you can't be naive. You just don't go around and being taken advantage of, or lay yourself bare to the wolves that are out there. You have to have boundaries. But generally, that research is true. Now, each of us tends to have all three of those characters. It's which bucket we stand in for the predominant time that's most important. And our argument, wouldn't it be cool is our argument for our listeners, Lynette, if we could all take further steps towards being generous of spirit. So I wanted to just throw that offer out towards you and get your reaction and thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because sometimes when you think about giving, when you were describing that, I thought about how, I've been literally raising 2 kids full time for 15 years. And there have been days, don't kid yourself, where I keep thinking to myself, is this going to be worth it? Like all I feel like I do is give, 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 give. And I don't know if I feel taken advantage of, but there's sometimes where it sort of creeps up and I think, oh God, tell me, somebody please tell me that this is going to be worth it. And then, you know what, yeah, you just keep going. And sometimes I don't always get, I don't know, I don't even know maybe what I'm trying to get back. I just think, you know, I do feel like I give a lot in that direction. So yeah, and
Well,
it's interesting,
so
but
human. Yeah, it's so human to want to feel that way, Lynette. And you know, and I
yeah.
love the fact that you're bringing it from a mother's perspective, because frankly, I think women sometimes just end up in that bucket so much that it feels like they're just getting wrung dry. That how much can you continue to be a giver and supporter? And I think so. There's a natural one, a tendency to say, "Well, what's in it for me? When, you know, when do I get something out of it?" The problem.
It's interesting. Sorry to cut you off there, but
Oh, go ahead.
that is so true because part of me feels like I don't even know how to be a taker. Like I feel like I should try to be more of a taker, but I don't know how to be one without feeling like, oh God, is that I shouldn't really be doing that. I shouldn't be taking that. So maybe like, what do you think? Like how does somebody try to balance, because I think you got to balance, like you said, you know, we have all three of those giver taker matchers in our in ourselves,
Right.
but sometimes I don't know, I feel like sometimes I lean maybe a little bit too much to the giver side, and maybe I could sort of swing the pendulum a little and get some get some
Well,
taking.
I know exactly. It's very human to feel that way, and I think there's a difference between receiving and taking. Like I think what one of the interesting things that I think people sometimes forget in this is that Grant makes a really important point about giving to yourself. I mean, you have to give to yourself, or you have to be generous of spirit. You're with
Maybe
yourself
that's what
first.
I'm doing.
If you can't do that, then you how can you possibly fully be generous to others? And so it's not martyrdom. So giving by no way is not intended to connect to this thing where you literally flagellate yourself and give to the point where you because it's not sustainable. And so you have to really start with yourself, a generous of spirit, self-compassion, those, and you have to be self-aware enough to know that, holy cow, I have to rest in order for me to continue to, or I have to take something in order to continue to give out to others. I,
Yeah.
I think, well, I think that's important.
So when,
We could,
when
yeah.
sorry, I keep cutting you off. I apologize.
Well, keep doing
Uh,
it.
so when does somebody think how? So give an example of a taking situation. Maybe like you were telling me a story of Kathleen kind of schooling you on taking. Why don't we tell that story a little?
Yeah, my wife Kathleen. Well, this is part of the humanness of feeling like being a taker, or sometimes feeling sorry for yourself and wanting to live in the world of matching or taking. We had bought a gift for people that we care about, a holiday gift. We never heard back from them, so we're driving in the car. We're driving along, and I'm kind of whinging away around, going, "What the hell? Don't those people know how to say thank you? You ever hear back from those people?" And then Kath, we started laughing, and she sort of said to me, "Well, wait a minute, Mr. Abundance, aren't we in the Mr. Giver? Aren't we in the world of isn't it? We didn't buy the gift so we could get a thank you. We didn't buy them a gift so we could make somehow feel that they owed us something. We bought them a gift because we wanted to say something to them. We
That's
wanted to give something to them. But it's human. And I think at work, what happens is that it can feel sometimes a bit harsh. You have to be very emotionally mature when you are giving something. So this often happens in ideas, Lynette, right? And you've been part of this. I've seen this happen where you've been part of this. You're working on something, you generate an idea, it gets tremendous traction, and all of a sudden it belongs to a whole bunch of other people, and you don't get the recognition for it. And sometimes you can feel, it's very human to feel, well, hey, what about, remember me? Like like how about just acknowledging. But I think when you live in the world of giving, you take that away. You did it because you wanted to make a contribution. You have
right.
purpose in your life. You wanted to create this and develop this. You did. It had many people that got recognition for it. And I think it's important to just let go of it, because if you're looking to go,
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking to go, I'm not going to get another, last time I do anything for that person because I never get any recognition or I never get anything back. Then you start getting in the world of matching. And then it's pretty tough to keep score. If you're in the world of keeping score, like it's even like that, right? I hate keeping score with people when I'm going out for dinner. Whose turn is it to buy? Like, I hate that because, you know, I don't know, like, I mean, you know, on the other hand, you know, I'm not, you know, you don't want to be so naive as to go out and, you know, unless you don't care that, you know, that you're buying all the time either. But when you get caught into, there needs to be boundaries. But when you caught into measuring everything and keeping score, life's tough.
That's right. You know, you mentioned something earlier in did you have a venti coffee, by the way, today? Because you are on fire today. All right.
No, but I typically, I made it myself because, you know, you're getting me up early here on the West Coast. That's ridiculous. So I think I put 2 scoops of this shit for every thing of water. Like, I think the caffeine level of this thing is like I can see it's kind of eating through the cup. Yeah. So anyway, that's what's going on.
Anyway, you were talking about purpose. So, you know, I think a lot of people today, there's so much about finding purpose and living values and stuff like that at work and finding purpose just in your life. And I think that, you know, you mentioned that where when you're sort of in this giving abundant spirit, you're really sort of connecting to your purpose. And I think if you wanted to kind of figure out a way to be a giver, you know, one of the things to do would be to simply just identify what you're really good at and then figure out some way of sort of translating that into being able to offer that expertise or whatever the case may be to others. And then, like you said, just give that out as something that you can then say, you know, I'm making a contribution to somebody else's life or to an organization, to an idea, to whatever, and then sort of move on and then find the next opportunity to give. And, you know, how you were talking about matching all the time. I feel like, you know, and going back to your point about having an idea and sharing that idea, and eventually that idea is no longer yours, and you should be happy about that. Because now are you just a one-hit wonder then with just one idea, and it gives you an opportunity to come up with other ideas and to continually progress, which then I think that's where the giving to yourself happens, right? Where your ideas are getting taken, they're getting expanded upon. And that I think that's where, you know, you sort of have to be okay with understanding that's really what giving is all about. Yeah.
I've written, I think you know this, I've written with help from Garrett, I think on 977 blogs. And in those blogs, I've given every, you know, some of it not so good, some of it okay, and some of it pretty good. But I've given that away. I mean, it's there. You know, whether it's, you know, I've given it away. Now, on the other hand, when I go and need to do work and want to do work, I'm not afraid to go and tell I'm $5,000 for a half day. That's it. That's what I think the value is. So we're not talking about not being clear about your value. We're not talking about being shy about being able to say, this is what my commercial arrangements are, right? You and I make a living right now out of our time and our effort. So you've got to be able to do that. The and with that, though, is that your propensity around how you work with other human beings is that people would like to say, I really like to work with Lynette, or I really like to work with Lorne, because I always feel like they're trying to expand the idea. They're trying to expand the pie. I always feel like I get a lot when I join my relationship with them, because they care about others and contribution. And I think there's a lot of research that's emerging about happiness. There's been so much talk about happiness. Happiness comes from contribution and to feel valued. And I think the more we give in a thoughtful, caring way, and other people feel it, you know, I mean, they feel not just spewing out something that doesn't, but when I care about other people and I care about them and I give towards them, then I think that really resonates with people. And when it's genuine and sincere, and they get it, and they want to work with us.
Yeah,
and I think that's why this is important in careers around, because people are going to try and beat you. You're going to deal with sneaky people, and there's somebody's going to try and screw you over politically and that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of freedom that comes from letting go a little bit of worrying about that.
Yeah.
I tend to be on the naive side. People laugh at me because, I always think everybody likes me. I mean, I know that's not true, but I don't care. Like I always thought that I'd get invited to the birthday party when someone said to me when I was a kid, well, that person doesn't like me. I know. And maybe it's silly to be that not self-aware, but I don't care that much. I mean, I really don't. I care more about just what I offer and what I can do and all my imperfection. Anyway.
Perfect. Well, Lorne, I think it's a great transition time to the three things that we can leave our listeners with. I definitely heard, find opportunities to be more of a giver, but take a sort of a self-check in terms of your self-care. Are you feeding yourself with what you need first? And then, yeah, right. And so self-care, find more opportunities to be a giver. Those opportunities can be found just by simply taking a look at what you really are good at. Find one or two things that you're really good at, translate that into something that you can give to somebody else, seek people out and offer it. And what would be sort of the third takeaway, Lorne?
I think the third thing is something you do all the time, and it's kind of what we start off with the beginning of this podcast and vlog. It's asking the how might we question. How might we? Have we considered? Be kind of be that person like in improv that's always looking for the end. It's a very simple way to kind of add that into your life without getting a big spiritual awakening, is just sort of kind of going around asking a lot of how might we, expanding the pie kind of questions. And before you know it, you're standing in the world of generosity. That's a pretty good place to stand.
Pretty good place to stand, Lorne.
All right.
Well, Lorne, always nice chatting with you.
Yeah. Thanks for getting me up so damn early here in the West Coast.
My pleasure. Enjoy every minute of it. All right. Talk to you soon. Okay. Bye.